Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm also watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time. But for the first time, I am looking for what Stargate is trying to teach us. I'm watching through a specific lens here, Jeff.
You are.
And I'm looking for those lessons that we say are good sci-fi messages. You know, those lessons that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, maybe even just tell us how we can be better human beings to one another.
Let's find out if this week we're going to get any of those messages as we watch A Matter of Time. Last week you gave me the title. I predicted that this is going to be one of those things where there's multiple versions of the SG-1 team, all from different points in the timeline, working together in different ways to try and solve some big existential problem. Be kind of cool. I mean, every show does this show at some point, or most every show does. So why not knock it out now? We're going to find out here pretty soon. Brent, can you lay some knowledge on us about A Matter of Time?
Yeah, this one's a little interesting today, Jeff.
Okay.
And by little, I mean very little. This is the 16th episode of season 2 of Stargate SG-1. Unless you happen to be in like another region where this is actually the 15th episode. The fifth race is the 16th episode. They get flip-flopped. I can't find out. I haven't done an exhaustive search to know where they were in one space and where they are in the other. However, the official air date of this episode is December 9th, 1998. If you remember last week, the fifth race, their official air date was December 16th, 1998. So it does seem that this one did air first. I got to tell you, Jeff, it has absolutely zero bearing on the show. Why are they flip-flopped at all? Does it even matter? Put them in a bag, shake them out. It really doesn't matter. It has no bearing on the show. Not even like a side mention or something of that nature. Remember when we did Walkabout over on Babylon 5?
Yeah, people lost their minds.
And then people are like, well, it does set up this one little comment that person made in that next episode. And now that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah.
Even if it made sense, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm sure it's great.
But the flow actually flowed a whole lot better doing it this other way. So
our expert opinion, at least.
Right. Anyway, also, do you remember last week when I said that Michael Shanks's daughter was born during the filming of that episode?
Yeah.
Well, it actually appears the daughter might have been born during the filming of this episode. As you'll notice, he's barely in this one, understandably so. Also, we get a very cool, awesome Babylon 5 crossover. I'm not telling you who it is. You're going to have to look out for it and tell me who this particular character is.
Awesome. That'll be fun.
With that, Jeff, why don't we go watch this episode? If you guys are joining us for the very first time, first I'd like to say welcome. And here's how this works. Jeff and I are going to watch the episode right now. Like he's never seen it. We're going to do it right now. If you're joining us on YouTube, you're going to get to watch us watch the episode. We're going to do the reaction video to it. If you want to see the full unedited version of that video, head over to our Patreon page. You can check the link down below. Jeff, do we have the updated link yet? I know we're working on it.
We're almost there.
Almost there. Okay.
We got the email. We got instructions. I just have to follow them.
I'm pretty sure those instructions were like, yeah, Jeff, this is what you have to do. And they're like, yeah, Jeff, that's what you have to do to make it.
Yep.
Anyway, check the link down below and for the most updated URL.
If you're listening to this on a podcasting app, you're about to gate into the future. We're going to watch the episode. You're going to skip that part, and you're going to come back, and we're going to meet you, where I'll share my for the first time reactions, and Brent will share any sci-fi messages he might have found. Brent, let's do it. It's a matter of time.
Chevron 7 locked.
All right, Jeff, we have just watched Matter of Time. I'd like to say welcome back to all of our audio listeners out there, or rather, we have caught up with you finally, I guess.
Hi there.
Yeah, I don't know. Time's relative.
Right, we were stuck in a time dilation the whole time, and eventually we got pulled back over to about all of our audio listeners.
Now we're back in sync. Jeff, you've just watched this episode for the very first time. What you got for us? A Matter of Time.
This is a cool sci-fi concept, right? And I think that they really leaned on the science in this one, like to the point where God bless Amanda Tapping and her ability to rattle off all this stuff, because that was some tongue twister, science, math, physics stuff going on there. Like, that was great. Cool story, right? So, but I think ultimately we just learned stuff. So, first thing I love about this is it's one of the few episodes we've had so far that just fully relies on lore and science that we've learned before. We got the little explanation at the beginning of how the wormholes work. We understand that energy overpowering a Stargate can force it to relocate. The mechanics of the iris, things like that, all kind of came together in here. But ultimately, this was a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi episode, right? Look, here's time. Time is relative. We got to figure out how to beat a black hole. And it was pretty fun for that. I really just have like two big takeaways in this one. And that's that we just caught it at the end, but the iris just got crumpled up and pulled into that gravity. It has a cool effect. But they've got a new one coming in, and it's trinium strengthened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we shut off the flow of trinium by being super awesome to a group of people a little while ago?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Well, maybe the USS Cerritos went in for second contact and patched things up.
Possible. A lot of patching.
Yeah, right.
But the big thing in this episode, though, was we had Colonel Cromwell, also known as Talon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
It was great. He's just a great actor. I love him. When he's in things, he put a little stank on his voice, that accent, trying to sound like good Colonel, doing the Colonel thing, but totally had that Talon thing underneath him that was awesome. But he and Jack go way back to an operation where Cromwell thought that Jack had gotten killed and was gone. So he took the crew, they took the team, and they headed out. Big news. O'Neill spent 4 years in an Iraqi prison.
He said 4 months.
4 months? Okay, I got years. Either way, 4 months. But what I love about this is just, great character development for O'Neill in general. But also, it's another callback. Back in the episode Prisoners, there was just this passing line where they said something about, wow, it sounds like you've been in prison before. He's like, yeah, I have. And then moved on. And now we know kind of what it was. And I imagine that through the series, there'll be little, other things that we get out of that. But just a little more depth to O'Neill, who frankly, from what I understand, still haven't seen the movie, but in the movie, very stoic, very much in the throes of the death of his son in that place. And then we saw a really quick transition to the O'Neill that we've seen here in this series. He's been great. He's entertaining. He's a great leader. He's got all this great stuff, but there hasn't been a lot of depth so much to him outside of Cold Lazarus that gave us a little more, but that was almost just kind of like tying a little bit of a bow on this stuff from the movie. So I like that we're getting some depth.
If I could push back on that just a little bit, we did see that one episode. I want to say it was Gamekeeper, where we saw O'Neill go back and try to relive this one moment. Kowalski came back, and it was he and Teal'c, and then Daniel and Sam were off doing something with Daniel's parents dying again.
Mm-hmm.
There was that moment that showed a little bit more, I would say, depth. But I can see what you're saying, that there hasn't really been a whole lot of depth to Jack.
We get a little piece. It's enough. It's not like I'm complaining about it. It's fine. But it's just cool we do get a little bit out of him. You mentioned at the beginning that Michael Shanks' daughter was being born. Really cool way they dealt with that. So he's off with SG6. They just mention him a little bit, and then he literally gets one line, pretty much at the end, where he's like, yeah, you reported for duty yesterday, but that was actually 2 weeks ago. Ha ha ha. There you go. Good for you. Really cool way of doing that.
Is there some like contractual obligation that he has to appear in the episode?
So like when you write up a contract for these things, oftentimes there's a number of appearances, and each appearance equals a dollar amount, essentially. Here's your contract for X thousand whatever dollars, which breaks down to this much per episode, because we are signing you for 18 of the 22 episodes or 22 of the 22. But there's nothing saying that can't be 30 seconds in one of them.
Because like I've often seen times over in Star Trek, especially where the makeup is real heavy, Quark comes on screen and he's on screen for less than 10 seconds for the entire episode. And I'm like, Armin Shimmerman went and sat in that chair for hours to get that on and get that off. They paid the makeup department for the time it took to do that. They paid, you went through that whole process for This one, and usually it didn't even matter to the episode, you know. So I just should be like, hey, just take a week off. You're fine. It's not going to change your pay. We're fine.
But it's going to impact their credits, like, you know, and stuff. And that's a big deal when you're talking union stuff. That's
probably a big deal. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So I thought it was a really cool way to handle that for him, though. I don't know. That kind of answered itself. Major Davis comes running in, and he's going to take Hammond to talk to the president because the president wants to talk to him in person.
Yeah.
Davis seemed like a pretty fleshed out character. Like, he was very full. He was very confident in who he was. Like, he just seemed very established. And so I was like, oh, is this guy going to be a new player? Is this going to be a thing? But he literally like kicked Hammond out of the Jeep on the way down and drove off. And so probably a one-time player, great appearance. The guy did awesome with it. I don't really have a lot more on this one. I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed this quite a bit. I loved the science in it. But like, to me, the big takeaway in this is that we got the Iris with trinium somehow, and Jack is a prisoner of war with in the Iraq War.
I'm a little sad that when Cromwell let himself go, usually you see something of the effect of like, if he hangs on, it's going to kill both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to do a thing where like he cuts his rope, and then that's what sends him off. Like, they didn't do that. It was just, he was there. And honestly looked like he just lost his grip, and away he went.
What I would have liked to have seen happen, though, at the end, hey, you made it, he says. And then Hammond or somebody says, everybody made it, thanks to you. What he should have said was, and Cromwell? And then just a little nod. That would have made everything okay. But you're right. It's like, hey, I'm hanging on to you. Now I'm not, and I'm gone. And that was it. Little disingenuous, little rough send off there. I mentioned a lot of science in this episode. Did you find any science fiction messages in this one?
It's hard to tell. I mean, if we apply the three litmus tests that we do, is it giving us hope that things are going to be better in the future? No, it's not tackling that at all. Is it holding up a mirror to society? Really? Is it telling us how we can be better human beings to one another? Maybe a little bit, Jeff. You mentioned it just a second ago. Jack blames Cromwell for effectively leaving him for dead, leaving him behind. And Cromwell's like, dude, I thought you were dead. I was trying to save the rest of the team, you know? And Jack's like, but I wasn't dead. I was there. I was alive. And Jack's holding on to this bitterness. Not a good thing. It's not healthy for him.
No.
It also has completely destroyed his relationship with this guy who they say, like, we were once friends. I kind of get it. I really do. You leave me for dead, we're going to have issues. But the real interesting piece that I found in this was where he turns around and he points to Henry Boyd on the screen and says, you're doing the same thing to him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's a completely different situation. He's like, no, it's the exact same situation. And you know what? Cromwell was right. Now, I'm really sad. I could have done a lot more with this episode if Jack would have done anything at all with it. But he did nothing.
It literally was, it's the same thing. Move on.
Okay, now we're going on. Right, exactly. So, you know, we've talked about this. This is one of those examples of where Stargate presents something, it gets right up there, and it does nothing with it, unfortunately. But it was there. It's an interesting thing to kind of think about. And what would have happened if Jack could have placed himself in Cromwell's shoes? Like, if there had been some sort of okay, Jack has to come to understand that he is doing what Cromwell did to him, and that does something to heal the relationship. So now they can work together to solve this problem, right? Frankly, that's the way Star Trek would have done it.
Yeah.
Not everything's gonna. This is not a Star Trek. Like, it's still not a Star Trek podcast, Jeff.
Exactly.
So they're not going to do it the way that Star Trek does it, and that's fine. That's okay. They literally just did nothing with it. So on our new scale of 0 to 7 chevrons, 1.5, maybe 2 at most.
Wow.
At most, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
I was expecting 0 from you.
No, well, I mean, I'll give it to them because they put it in there. Like,
yeah.
They definitely put it in there, and sort of, maybe they're just doing that thing where, hey, we're going to bring it in there, and then we'll leave it to you guys to decide what was right or wrong.
If you pick up on it, if you happen to be turned to your right and taking a note when that scene happened, like even a short note, you missed it and it was never referenced again.
Honestly, I've watched this episode 47 times, and that's the first time I've ever thought about it. Might be the first time I've ever really heard that whole conversation. So again, It was there. They didn't do much with it. It does meet a litmus test though. So I can't just give it a 0. I wish they would have done something more with it. I think it would have been a more interesting episode if they had. It's almost like they just jammed that in there to give this like a personal attachment, and it didn't need it. Like they could have left that out altogether and it wouldn't have changed anything about this episode.
Exactly.
They could have dived into it and really would have changed a lot about this episode. Personally, would have made an episode that I kind of like a little bit more, because I tend to not like this episode and I tend to skip it. I tend to find it a tedious episode, to be honest with you.
I feel like I just feel like petty sometimes, right? How often do I bring up the bad pacing in this? But at one point they're up topside and I think Hammond's talking to Carter, and I'm like, this is a 31-minute long episode. Like it's just like, it just keeps stretching.
When they're on those ropes and they're going down, it's like, oh my gosh, come on. Like, sheesh. That's what Brent thinks about this. You know what's really important though, Jeff?
What's that?
What you think about this, because you, my friend, get to place this episode in our 100% completely accurate and definitive ranking of season 2 of Stargate SG-1. Let's go with the middle pack of the ranking right now. Our middle 5, number 6 is the Tok'ra parts 1 and 2. Number 7 is In the Line of Duty. Number 8 is the Touchstone. Number 9 is Message in a Bottle. Number 10 is Need. Jeff, if this cracks the top 5, you and I are going to have some splaining to do. I'm curious if this cracks the middle 5 or if this is now currently in the bottom 5. Jeff, where do you, my friend, place this in the ranking?
Well, I want to make it really clear that you come up with the chevrons on the fly as we're going. I come up with the ranking on the fly as we're going. We're not communicating. There's no like same page here or anything. You picked the right 5 to read from. I honestly am like on the cusp of middle 5 and bottom 5 a little bit. But when I look at the bottom 5 episodes, like they're really not that good.
Yeah.
So this is not going to drop into the bottom 5, but it's going to stay at the bottom of the middle 5. It's going to be the new number 10 between Message in a Bottle and Need.
I'm with you on that. I think it comes back to, you know, where I would apply this test. Which one would I rather watch first? Do I want to watch Daniel going crazy in a sarcophagus or Time Dilation? Probably I would personally take Time Dilation.
The Daniel one should have been cooler and more fun, you know, but kind of so should have this one.
Family, I mean, Teal'c's family is what it is. Bane, we get Bugs. Prisoners, that's that one. That's like the Hathor of this episode of this season. And then the Gamekeeper. Now you've got Gamekeeper much lower than I personally do, but that's okay because this is the definitive, correct, and immutable ranking.
It is until it's not.
Until it's not. Well, Jeff, that is going to do it for A Matter of Time. Next time, Jeff, we have a new episode. Title of that episode is Holiday. Now, this is where I usually ask if you want to venture a guess. You don't have to, but I'm going to make you do it anyway. So yes, you do have to, Jeff. What do you think an episode titled Holiday might be about?
So if I have my timeline correct, this one came out December 9th, but Fifth Race came out December 16th.
Yep.
Which means Holiday is going to come out December 23rd. It's a Christmas episode.
Okay.
Just like the other one, Spirits was going to be a Halloween episode. This is going to be a Christmas episode. And what I think it's literally going to be is...
I like your thinking.
Like Shore Leave, you know, like, hey, we're not going on a mission. We're going to dive a little bit into the personal lives of 2 or 3 of the team. Like we'll see what Sam does. You know, is she and Dr. Fraser going to do something with the kid? What's Teal'c doing during this time? Stuff like that. So we're going to get like a little slowdown, a little personal touch base with everybody during the holiday season.
All right. Sounds good. And we will see next time right here on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget, wherever you find your podcast out there, please hit that subscribe button. If you're finding us on YouTube, also please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and please be sure to share this podcast, share this show, share this channel with anyone that you know who loves SG-1, maybe even Babylon 5, and anyone who you know might need to get into the gate for the very first time, or maybe people who are very familiar with Stargate who want to look at it through a new lens for the very first time. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you guys next week when we go on holiday. Yeah, Jeff.
A little bit earlier there, you just kind of seemed kind of distracted tonight. Everything okay?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I'm fine.
God, we need some help here, and all they sent was you?
For crying out loud.